There are moments when nothing seems to change. The day looks the same. The air feels familiar. The world continues as it always has. And yet, somewhere deep inside, something has already begun to move. Not loudly, not suddenly, just a slight shift, like a breath taken without notice. It often begins in silence. Not the kind of silence that is empty, but the kind that feels full, heavy, and waiting. A silence that stays with you even when you are surrounded by sound. You may not be able to explain it. You may not even want to. You simply feel it. A quiet awareness that the old way of seeing things no longer fits as comfortably as it once did. At first, it does not feel important. It feels small, almost easy to ignore. You tell yourself that nothing is different, that this feeling will pass, but it lingers. It watches. It asks questions without words. Why does this moment feel heavier than before? Why does your heart pause when it used to rush forward? Sometimes destiny does not arrive as an event. It arrives as a hesitation, a pause before reacting, a second longer spent in thought, and in that pause, something ancient awakens, a sense that you are standing at the edge of a change, even if you cannot yet see the path ahead. You may look back later and realize that this was the moment everything began. But while you are inside it, it feels uneventful, ordinary, almost disappointing. There is no sign to follow, no clear direction, only a subtle discomfort that asks you to pay attention. There is a strange loneliness in these moments, not because you are truly alone, but because no one else can see what you are feeling. They continue as before, they speak as before, they expect the same responses. And you try to give them, but something inside you has grown quieter, more distant, more observant. You begin to notice things you once overlooked, the way words linger after they are spoken, the way certain silences feel heavier than others, the way your own reactions no longer come as quickly as they used to. You wonder when that changed. You wonder if it matters. This is often how destiny shifts, not with certainty, but with confusion, not with excitement, but with stillness. A gentle, unsettled feeling that refuses to be rushed. It asks you to sit with it, even when sitting feels uncomfortable. You may feel the urge to fill the silence, to explain yourself, to prove something, but something deeper holds you back. A quiet voice that suggests waiting, listening, observing without judgment. It does not promise answers. It only promises honesty. And so you remain there, in that moment where nothing seems to happen, where the world looks the same, yet you do not. You feel as though you are standing in shallow water, unsure whether to move forward or turn back, aware only that standing still is changing you. This is the beginning many never notice, because it is too quiet, too slow, too gentle to be impressive. But within this stillness, a different kind of strength is forming, one that does not demand attention, one that grows unnoticed. If you listen closely, you can feel it, not as excitement, but as awareness, not as certainty, but as calm curiosity. A quiet sense that the story is not ending here. It is simply turning inward, preparing to unfold in a way that cannot be hurried. And so the moment passes, outwardly unchanged. But inwardly, something has already begun. As time passes, that quiet feeling does not leave. It settles deeper, like a stone resting at the bottom of still water. You carry on as before, yet something presses gently from within. Not enough to cause pain, but enough to be felt. A weight that has no shape, no clear reason, and no simple release. You begin to notice how much remains unsaid. Thoughts rise, then fall back into silence. Emotions appear, then retreat before reaching your voice. It is not fear that holds them back. It is something softer and more confusing. A sense that speaking too soon would disturb something fragile forming inside. There are moments when the heart feels full, yet empty at the same time, full of feelings without names, empty of words that feel honest. You wonder if others feel this way, or if this quiet burden belongs only to you. But you do not ask. You sit with it. You learn its weight. Silence becomes a companion, not a comfort, but not an enemy either. It walks beside you through ordinary moments, reminding you of what you are carrying. In this silence, emotions do not fade. They grow clearer, sharper, more patient. They wait to be understood rather than released. At times, the weight feels heavier. A glance lingers too long. A word cuts deeper than expected. A memory returns without warning. You feel it in your chest, steady and slow, like a reminder that something within you is changing its shape. You breathe through it, unsure whether to hold on or let go. You may try to distract yourself, to stay busy, to move faster. But the silence follows. It does not chase. It does not demand. It simply remains, asking to be acknowledged. What are you holding? Why does it matter? What would happen if you reacted as you once did? In this space, you begin to sense the cost of reaction, how quickly words can escape and never return, how easily emotion can turn into regret. You feel the tension between expression and restraint, and you stand quietly between the two, uncertain which path honors you more. There is comfort in holding back, a subtle ache that comes from choosing stillness when movement feels easier. Yet within that discomfort there is also control, a quiet power in knowing that you are not being pulled by every feeling that passes through. You. The silence sharpens your awareness. You notice how emotions rise like waves, strong at first, then softer, then gone. You realize that not every wave needs to be followed. Some are meant only to be observed, their strength felt without being acted upon. This understanding does not arrive fully formed. It grows slowly through moments of restraint and reflection, through nights where the heart feels heavy and mornings where clarity feels just out of reach, through patience that is learned, not chosen. You may wonder if this weight will ever lift, if silence will ever feel light again. But something within you already knows the answer. The weight is not there to burden you, it is there to steady you, to teach you the difference between reacting and responding, and so you continue, carrying what is unspoken, feeling what is unresolved, not because you are weak, but because you are learning the shape of your inner world, learning how much you can hold without breaking, learning that silence, though uncomfortable, is shaping something strong and lasting within you. As your silence deepens, something subtle begins to shift around you, not inside, but outward. They start to notice that you are quieter than before, that your words come slower or sometimes not at all. And in that quiet, they begin to fill the space with their own meanings. They wonder why you no longer explain yourself, why you no longer rush to respond, why your expressions feel distant, even when you are present. They do not ask gently. They assume. Silence, to them, feels uncomfortable, and so they shape it into something they can understand. Some decide that you no longer care. Others, you are hiding something. A few may think your quiet is a sign of weakness, or worse, indifference. They speak as if they know your thoughts, even though you have offered none. Their words move ahead of your truth. You feel this misunderstanding like a quiet sting, not sharp, but lingering. You want to correct it, to explain that your silence is not emptiness but fullness, that it is not distance but awareness. Yet each time the thought arises, it meets resistance within you, a feeling that speaking now would only add noise, not clarity. Being misunderstood creates a special kind of loneliness, one that exists even when others are near. You are seen but not known, heard but not understood. And the part of you that once rushed to be understood now hesitates, unsure if understanding can be forced. You begin to realize how often people listen only for what confirms their own thoughts, how quickly they turn silence into a story that suits them. And in this realization, a quiet sadness appears. Not anger, just a soft grief, for how easily truth can be missed. At times, their assumptions press against your chest. You replay moments in your mind, wondering if a single sentence could change everything, if one explanation could clear the air, but something deeper reminds you that explanations given too quickly often fall on closed ears. There is a strange tension in holding your ground without defending it, in allowing others to believe what they choose while you remain still. It feels unfair, it feels heavy, yet it also feels honest. You are no longer shaping yourself to fit their expectations. You notice how silence reveals more than speech ever could. It shows who is patient enough to wait, who is curious enough to ask, who is willing to sit with uncertainty instead of filling it with judgment. In being misunderstood, you begin to see more clearly. Some distance may grow, conversations feel thinner, familiar warmth fades slightly. This can hurt. You feel it quietly, without protest, without accusation. You let the feeling pass through you, trusting that not every loss is a mistake. In these moments, self-doubt may whisper, "Are you doing the right thing? Is silence truly strength or just avoidance?" You sit with these questions, not rushing to answer them. You learn that doubt, too, deserves to be heard without control. What slowly becomes clear is this: being misunderstood is not always a sign of error. Sometimes it is simply the cost of choosing depth over display, of choosing restraint over reaction, of choosing to honor your inner truth even when it is unseen. And so you remain quiet, not in defiance, not in pride, but in quiet respect for what is forming within you. You allow them to think what they will. You carry the weight of misunderstanding without bitterness. In doing so, something within you grows steadier, less dependent on approval, less shaken by assumption. You begin to understand that clarity does not always come from being heard. Sometimes it comes from knowing who you are, even when others do not. And in that quiet knowing, the loneliness softens, not because others understand you now, but because you are beginning to understand yourself. When the noise around you begins to fade, something unexpected happens. The silence turns inward. It no longer points toward what others think or say. It begins to reveal what you have been carrying for a long time. Feelings you once moved past quickly now stay a little longer, asking to be noticed. There is discomfort in this kind of listening. Pain does not announce itself clearly. It speaks in memories, in reactions that feel stronger than the moment deserves, in quiet sadness that appears without a clear cause. You sit with it, unsure at first what it wants from you. Instead of pushing it away, you begin to listen, not with judgment, but with patience. You notice where the pain tightens, where it softens, where it returns again and again. You begin to see patterns, the same feelings arising in similar moments, the same wounds touched by familiar words or silences. This listening feels like turning toward a dimly lit room you avoided for years. At first, you see only shadows, old disappointments, unspoken regrets, expectations that were never truly yours, yet carried faithfully. You feel the weight of them now, not as blame but as understanding. Pain, when listened to, becomes precise. It no longer feels endless. It shows you exactly where it lives and why. You begin to realize that much of what hurt you was not the moment itself, but what it reminded you of. Old hopes, old fears, old habits of giving too much or holding too little. There is a quiet humility in this realization. You see how often you reacted from places of past hurt rather than present truth, how quickly you defended, withdrew, or explained, not because the moment demanded it, but because the pain had learned those responses long ago. You sit with these discoveries gently. There is no rush to fix them, no need to judge yourself for not knowing sooner. You understand now that growth does not come from shame, but from clarity, from seeing without turning away. As you listen, compassion begins to replace criticism. You see that the pain was trying to protect you, even when it did not know how. It learned to speak through tension, through silence, through restraint. It was not an enemy, it was a messenger. This understanding softens something inside you. You feel less divided, less at war with your own reactions. You begin to thank the pain quietly, not for the hurt it caused, but for the truth it revealed. In this stillness, you start to sense what truly matters to you, not what you were taught to value or what others expect, but what feels honest and rounded. You notice which moments drain you and which leave you calm, which silences feel heavy and which feel peaceful. Listening to what hurts also teaches you what to protect. Your time, your energy, your inner balance. You realize that reacting too quickly often cost you more than it gave. That silence, when chosen with awareness, can be an act of care rather than avoidance. This inner listening does not make you distant. It makes you present, more aware of your own limits, more respectful of your own feelings. You stop asking why others do what they do and start understanding how you respond to it. And in that understanding, a quiet shift occurs. The pain loses its urgency. It no longer demands immediate action. It trusts that you are listening now. You remain there in that gentle awareness, feeling what once felt too heavy to hold. And as you do, you realize that the silence you feared is not empty at all. It is full of guidance, waiting patiently for you to hear it. After listening long enough, something steady begins to appear beneath the noise of thought and feeling. It is not excitement. It is not relief. It is a sense of ground, a quiet place within you that does not shift with every emotion that passes through. At first you are unsure what it is. You only notice that reactions slow down. Words no longer rush to the surface. You feel a pause forming between what happens and how you respond. In that pause, there is space. And in that space, there is choice. This realization comes gently, almost unnoticed. One moment you would have reacted without thinking. The next, you find yourself simply observing, watching the feeling rise, then settle. You do not suppress it. You do not follow it. You allow it to be. You begin to understand that not every feeling is a command. Some are visitors, arriving with urgency, then leaving when they are seen. You no longer feel the need to open the door to each one. You stand quietly in the center of yourself, aware but unmoved. This inner ground feels unfamiliar at first. You are used to motion, to explanation, to adjustment. Stillness feels almost like doing nothing. But slowly, you sense its strength. A strength that does not come from control, but from presence. In this space, you start to see yourself more clearly. Not as you appear to others, but as you are when no one is watching. You notice what feels true and what feels forced, what aligns with your values and what pulls you away from them. You realize that much of your past effort was spent trying to manage impressions, to be understood, to be seen in a certain way. Standing on this inner ground, those efforts feel less necessary, not because others no longer matter, but because you matter too. There is a quiet relief in this understanding. You do not need to perform your worth. You do not need to rush to defend it. It exists, steady and intact, whether it is acknowledged or not. The more you return to this place, the more familiar T becomes. It is always there, beneath thought and emotion, waiting to be remembered. You learn how to rest there, even when the outer world feels uncertain. From this ground, silence feels different. It is no longer heavy or tense. It feels intentional, rooted. You speak when something true needs to be shared, not when silence feels uncomfortable. You begin to trust this inner stillness. It guides you without force. It shows you when to step back and when to step forward. It does not hurry you. It does not judge.